Hi, my name is Brandon and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. Today I want to talk more about craving, the phenomenon that keeps people coming back to alcohol and drugs even when they start to feel like it's not the best idea for them to continue using them. I'm going to read a little bit from This Naked Mind by Annie Grace to summarize what she says about the cycle of addiction and the phenomenon of craving. She says, to summarize, 3 changes happen in your brain as a result of drinking. And this is specifically about drinking, but a lot of this applies to all kinds of drug use and even other addictive behaviors. First, alcohol increases cravings, but not pleasure, by releasing dopamine. Second, alcohol artificially activates the pleasure center of your brain, the nucleus accumbens. Your brain tries to compensate for this overstimulation, leading to tolerance and the eventual numbing of your pleasure center. Finally, alcohol damages your prefrontal cortex, decreasing your ability to exercise self-control and making it more difficult to abstain. You're caught in the horrible cycle of addiction. More cravings, little to no pleasure, and an impaired ability to break out of it. As we've learned, it's difficult to control how much you drink because over time, drinking will actually alter your brain. You have no way of knowing when that change will happen or to what degree. And just as dieting makes food more attractive psychologically, trying to control your intake increases temptation. The good news is that by overcoming the mental desire to drink, you can more easily resist the physical craving. I'm going to read that one again. The good news is that by overcoming the mental desire to drink, you can more easily resist the physical craving. When you stop drinking, your brain will stop compensating and repair itself. You can again find pleasure in simply living as you could before you ever started drinking. So going back to that important statement, that by overcoming the mental desire to drink, you can more easily resist the physical craving. I saw this I've quit several drugs in my life, and I saw this most easily demonstrated when I quit cigarettes. And that was the first thing that I ever quit. And I was a 2-pack, 1.5 to 2-pack a day smoker. I loved cigarettes. I loved everything about them. I even had gotten to a point where I liked the smell of nicotine and tobacco, and I loved everything about cigarettes. But I knew that I needed to quit, and I had wanted to quit for a long time, and I felt like I was throwing money away, and I knew for a fact that what I was doing was killing me, and that if it went on, it would probably be the thing that did kill me. So I didn't want that to happen, but the craving that I got when I tried to quit was so strong and overpowering that I couldn't do it. I tell people that I would have days where I would quit 2 to 3 times in one day because I would wake up with the intention of being done with cigarettes, and then by 10 o'clock in the morning I'd go buy a pack, and I'd say, okay, I'm only going to smoke 2, and then I'd quit for a couple more hours, and then I'd say, forget it, I'm gonna smoke again. So what had to happen was I had to overcome the mental desire for cigarettes. Because even though I knew they were bad for me, even though I knew they would probably kill me, there was still a mental desire to smoke. I still wanted that prop in conversations. I still wanted the relief that I got from ending my cravings after abstaining from them for a while. I still wanted the taste. I still wanted the everything associated with it. I still wanted that. But there were certain things starting to sneak in that were helping me break down those kinds of things, the mental desire. For example, I had started to notice the way other smokers smelled, and I didn't want to smell like that. And some of these were people who were smoking in their homes, and I realized, hey man, I probably smell like this when I get in an elevator full of people and have just been smoking a cigarette. I noticed at this point that my illnesses were lasting a really long time. Like I'd get a cold and it would last for over a month. I was pretty sure that that was related to the cigarettes. And I started noticing these things and really focusing in on them and saying, if you stop smoking, more than likely, these types of problems will go away. Pretty soon, the mental desire started to reverse. I started to, instead of wanting to hold on to cigarettes, I wanted to let go of them. At that point, I did some reading. One of the books I read was Alan Carr's The Easy Way to Quit Smoking. And in fact, This Naked Mind, the book that I'm reading right now, was inspired by some of Alan Carr's books. In his books, he doesn't preach about the dangers. He doesn't preach about why you need to get over your addiction. He just lays out the facts, and he says, look, here's what you've been taught about cigarettes. Here's what you've been conditioned to believe about cigarettes. Here's what's actually happening when you smoke. These are all of the different reasons that that a lot of other people have chosen to quit. And so when I read this book, it was a very good way to educate myself on what was really driving my mental desire. And once I understood that and could break it down a little bit easier, it was easier to reverse it. By the time I did that, my mental desire to smoke was kind of gone. I didn't want to smoke anymore. And once I made the decision to stop, then it became easier to resist the physical craving. So the reason I go through all of this is to point out that there are two parts, and this is oversimplifying it. There's way more than two parts, but to generalize the way that that quitting an addiction has worked for me, or the way that moving into recovery from an addiction has worked for me, there's been two parts to it. There's the how do I get past the mental desire for the drug, and then how do I use what I know to resist the physical craving when it happens. With cigarettes, that became very, very easy because I knew, because of what I had read, I knew what the physical cravings would look like. I had some things planned that I could do instead of succumbing to a physical craving. And I also planned some things out in life that I wouldn't have been able to do without cigarettes. One easy thing with cigarettes. Every day I went home and put, at that time, packs were $6 a pack. Every day I went home and put $9 into a jar and said, here's my cigarette money for the day. And then I looked at what I had by the end of the month and spent it on something fun. That was an easy way for me to see on a regular basis what the benefits were of not caving to the physical craving that I was feeling. So it is important when looking at how to stop an addiction, how to approach quitting anything, to look at that mental desire as well. I think that a lot of times when I tried to quit smoking just by white knuckling it, just by saying, all right, I'm going to use sheer willpower to quit smoking, that those were the times that I was very unsuccessful. But it was when I was able to really move that mental desire away from wanting to smoke and into wanting to be a non-smoker and really truly wanting to not have cigarettes in my life, that's when I started to see some success. And I didn't get it the first time. I would go a few months without smoking and then something would happen and I'd start again. But pretty soon I was able to implement it, and I have not had a cigarette since 2015. And I never believed I'd be able to do that. I was convinced I was going to die from it. So, um, really cool stuff in the book today. I like the way she describes the difference between the mental desire and the physical craving. And then, tomorrow we'll talk a little bit more about that mental desire in terms of using alcohol and drugs to fit in. A lot of times we feel like we need these things to fit into the crowd. It turns out actually they're making us stand out probably. So, going to get into that tomorrow. In the meantime, have a good day.